Jacinda Ardern.
Before I begin on my substantive contribution, which is to speak to the SOP that I've put forward around youth representation, I just wanted to clarify, for the sake of anyone out there who may be watching this debate and have watched the praise that the Minister has heaped on the Honourable George Hawkins and his SOP, that not for a second should anyone misinterpret that praise to be a substitute for the fundamental reform that this side of the House has been calling for. Adopting one SOP does not in any way answer all of the questions that we have been asking, all the calls we have made for fundamental reform on this side of the House. I hope I have clarified that position for anyone viewing this debate. And the contribution I wanted to make, Mr. Chair, is around the many submissions that were received around representation of young people, which represent about 37% of the population of Auckland, but only turn out at a level of about 22% in votes in local government elections, and that's up to the age of people of 45. So representation, I think we can all acknowledge, is low amongst young people when it comes to local government. And what was the response that we received from the government benches when, during the second round of debate of the Auckland governance reforms, we put forward a very sensible SOP to suggest how youth could be better represented within the super city, following along the lines of what some of the councils already have. I want to read out the contribution that was made during that debate in response to our suggestion of youth representation in a youth council, and this was a contribution made by Nikki Kay, and she said there are two reasons why we did not put up the youth council structure formally within the legislation. Firstly, I would ask members opposite to develop a selection clause that would have enabled youth to be selected. Secondly, we wanted to leave that up to the new local body politicians, because part of the balance of this bill has been that we need to enable the city to function while not directing local body politicians to do too much. So two reasons why we couldn't have a youth council built into this bill. The first, according to national benches, that we don't want too much detail, and the second reason was because we didn't give them enough detail. Well, I don't think that quite possibly that argument could stand. We struck the balance in our SOP, and we did it in this way. We suggested that territorial youth forums be established. We didn't say how they should be selected. We left that open. And that from those youth forums, which would mirror the local boards, a young person from those forums should then contribute to be represented on an Auckland Youth Council. It was a very simple formula, and one that I believe could have worked. In fact, we toted it around various youth councils and youth law, and they all agreed it was a good proposal. None of the division and factionalism that was claimed on that side of the House that we didn't have unity, we had it. But what was the government's counter-proposal? Instead of this sensible, comprehensive proposal, the government said instead put in place a proposal in the legislation which basically says that the Mayor can set up processes to talk to those too young to vote. That is what our super city legislation now says. The Mayor is allowed to talk to people that are too young to vote. That is a cop-out on two levels. First of all, the Mayor could already do that. You didn't need to write that into legislation. The Mayor already had the ability to do that. That is blatant tokenism on the part of the government. Blatant tokenism. The second reason it's a cop-out is that there was an attempt by the government to claim that there wasn't unity around, all handwritten, my friend, all handwritten. There was not unity around this SOP. There was. And if the government bothered to ask youth council members or any of the submitters who came forward whether or not they would have agreed to this amendment, they would have heard that the answer was yes. The government has put forward a tokenistic response to what I thought were comprehensive, compelling arguments made by those who represented 37% of the population of Auckland, who were not given a formal voice in this structure. We again have seen a lack of leadership from the government, who have left too much to chance. They have not given a strong message to the council and to the Mayor over their expectations, other than to say we expect the Mayor to have a conversation with those too young to vote. It's an absolute cop-out, and I hope that those young people who came forward and made the time to make a submission to the Select Committee see this for what it is.